I am the Top Gun maverick of hair loss. No one can deny this. What we need to address the fact that apparently Nick Shell, the living legend of hair loss, truly doesn't live in fear. We need to unpack this. I think this is important. Thank you for watching this video. This is important for you to see this. True story. For me, it's Saturday. It's exactly 1 week before my 20th high school reunion, which I will be making videos more about and talking more about. But for me on this day, yesterday was Friday. Before work, I went to Whole Foods and I picked up some lunch there. I picked it up before work so that I have it at lunchtime. All right. So while I was there, I mean, I know the cashiers pretty well at this point, and like my two favorite cashiers that I always like to talk to, they were there in the same thing, and I was talking to them. And somehow, in the process of me buying a chicken salad sandwich and some kombucha, there was this concept of, they were talking about fears. And I kind of casually said, well, I don't really think I fear anything. We were talking about my 20th high school reunion and how I volunteered to give a speech. So we were talking about that, and I said, I know, most people, that's like their number one fear. You've looked it up. You know how the number one fear that people have is actually public speaking, and then death is after that. But I'm not that way. I do not fear public speaking, and let's face it, making thousands of videos on YouTube over the course of many years has only enhanced my ability to communicate and only taken away all fear of public speaking. I actually now enjoy and look for opportunities for public speaking at this point, which is exactly what I'm doing for my reunion. And so I pointed that out to the cashiers there at Whole Foods, and they were confirming, yeah, like they would basically rather die than have to speak in front of a crowd. And I was saying, yeah, well, I definitely don't fear that. And then the girl said, well, do you fear death? And I said, no, I don't. Now, specifically, in case you've been watching any of my videos that I make for atheists, the reason I do not fear death is because of my faith in Christ. I am very firm in my Christian beliefs. So I don't want death. I don't want to welcome it anytime soon. But ultimately, and I do think about death, but I don't fear it. And so the cashier said, well then, do you have any fears? And from the walk to the car to the drive to work, I thought about it, and this is what I came up with. I don't have any fears. I don't have any fears. Now, granted, just like anybody in the world, they can think of all of these horrible things that could happen to them, all these things that they could, in essence, lose, and their quality of life would begin to crumble. But I don't fear those things, because Nick Shell does not live in fear, and Christianity teaches that. Jesus said so many times, do not fear. Because I think the default is that we fear things. Nick Shell doesn't fear things. I acknowledge there are all kinds of things I wouldn't want to happen to me, but I don't fear those happening. I'm not going to spend time, because I'm good at time management, I'm not going to spend any of my time worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. Even if it could happen, it hasn't happened yet. To me, that's fear. Christianity teaches against having fear, because we are wired as human beings. I think that's one of our defaults, is to fear, to have anxiety about things that haven't happened yet and may never actually happen. So I don't live in fear, and that conversation at Whole Foods confirmed that for me. I do not live in fear. Well, here we are nearly 4 minutes into this video, and yes, this is actually a hair loss video, because what I recognize as someone who has the 4th largest YouTube channel in the world that is largely focused on hair loss, what I regularly see is that young men are fearing hair loss. They're fearing hair loss. Compared to Nick Shell, who fears nothing, I have thousands of people watching my videos who collectively fear hair loss. So let's unpack that. I think that's very important for us to address this so that you can become freed. Because the point of my channel is never, these hair loss videos, is never that, hey, I'm Nick Shell, the living legend of hair loss. I'm going to show you the cure to hair loss and you won't go bald. That's never what I'm here to say. I'm here to say, let me help you psychologically overcome your hair loss. Your hair loss may still exist, but you will have peace in your heart. You will be confident in who you are, And it will not be, no strings attached to having hair. The hair is not part of your confidence, your identity, your peace, your joy, your happiness, none of that. They're two separate things. Most men who watch my channel think that they're exclusive, that they're a package deal. Confidence and a full head of hair, you can't have one without the other. And Nick Shell teaches the opposite. I am a rebel. It's funny. Hey, let me see if I can find it. I received a comment this morning that made me, I think I literally LOL'd when I saw this comment. It was so funny to me that someone would take the time to even say this. Okay, game over. He says, hair looks great. Helps that you're a good looking dude. All right, that's cool. And then he says, the next guy on my sub list has a guy with almost the same glasses doing a Top Gun 2 trailer review, LOL. Which, by the way, the reason I had referred to myself as the Top Gun Maverick of hair loss was because I saw that comment, and I'd recently watched the trailer for Top Gun Maverick. Here we go. So on a video I made called Male Pattern Baldness or Not, Buzz Off All Your Hair If You Feel Like It. Someone named Abu Adam said this, quote, take off the glasses. Looks not professional on camera. To which I commented back and I said, I refuse. Nick Shell is a rebel. It really is fun being a rebel. I am a rebel. Maybe I don't break the law, but I break cultural laws. I break identity laws. It's almost like one of the laws is that you're supposed to live in fear. If that's a rule, then I'm definitely breaking that law. I'm breaking that rule. I am a rebel. I don't live in fear. Even though I recognize things I would not want it to happen in life, I don't live in fear of those things. I am a rebel. And I think sometimes it takes a rebel like this to get through to someone who is still keeping themselves captive in that mindset that having a full head of hair and being happy and confident and likable are a package deal. Nick says no. Nick Shell says no. No. Take my hair away. May I go bald tomorrow all at once. Still the same confident guy. Still the same happy, peaceful guy that enjoys helping other people psychologically overcome whatever issues they're going through. But just acknowledge this though right now. Acknowledge that you do fear hair loss. I think that's step number one. Acknowledge that you personally have a fear of going bald. What we have to do is ask, but why? Fundamentally, Nick Shell always asks, fundamentally why though? Why do men fear hair loss? Why do young men fear hair loss? Well, and I've pointed out before, this is the first generation in history where there's never been easier access to pornography. Now, just to put it in perspective, and I've asked atheists the same video on whether they think that pornography is psychologically destructive. And a lot of them said, okay, well, at least some went hurt. But then what they generally agreed with, and these are atheists, people who have no Christian perspective like I do, they all pretty much at least admitted, well, it's not completely harmless because depending on what age you're exposed to it, that could be a bad thing. In general, the atheists were actually saying, basically, there's no harm between consenting adults and all this stuff. What they were saying is, teenage boys, young boys, adolescent boys shouldn't be exposed to pornography. Ultimately is what they were kind of at least agreeing with me on. At least if you're still a child, a teenager, that could, yes, have a negative effect. Because what I believe is, and this is very predictable. You often see this with boys who were sexually abused in their youth. It absolutely, undeniably has outcomes later on as adults because often they don't get help from a counselor or a professional that they need for that. So it absolutely kind of breaks them and rewires them. And what I am doing is I am comparing pornography to sexual abuse. I'm actually doing that right here in this video. And specifically though, for younger guys. I mean, what if you're 13, 14, 15? You've got access to pornography. Okay, you can't handle that. You're not ready for that. And now you're addicted to it. So you may be years away from ever even having that kind of physical relationship with a woman, but you've got not only these ideas of what you think it's supposed to be, but you've also, now it takes more to get you going. And it may actually psychologically rewire you to the point where you can't even function psychologically to make things actually work. To me, I see that as sexual abuse, but it's voluntary. teenage boys are volunteering to subscribe to the sexual abuse. So I think that's one of the reasons men fear hair loss. I've made a video before asking my audience. I said, look, for those of you who are young and you're fearing it, you're in your teenage years, your 20s, why is it that you fear hair loss? And I said, I think the reason is because you think women will not want to be physical with you. Because you think you have to have a full head of hair to be attractive. And I said, the whole thing about fearing hair loss, does it go beyond anything beyond you're afraid that women won't have sex with you? And I made that video. It still exists. You can look it up. And basically, everybody who commented agreed with me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They're mostly fearing going bald because they're afraid that women will not want to be physical with them, because women will not be physical with a guy who is young and balding. So I understand that that's a large part of the motivation for guys fearing hair loss, which is one of the reasons why I continually remind everybody, men are physically drawn to women. That's the first thing we notice. Women are not that way. There are many differences between men and women. And one of those many differences is when a female is exposed to a guy, she'll see what he looks like, but that's not necessarily what makes her attracted to him. What she wants to do, she wants to find out what kind of person he is. She wants to find out, well, okay, he's bald, he has a mohawk, he doesn't have hair, he does have hair. Okay, that's simply what he looks like. But how will he look at me when I come up to him? Or what is he looking at me right now? Does he show interest in me? That's how females think. They think, well, he's supposed to pursue me. Is he confident enough to look at me? Is he confident enough to talk to me? Is he confident enough to make me laugh? Is he confident enough to be able to carry on a conversation and ask about me and my interests? Is he confident enough, despite what he looks like, whether good or bad, that I can tell that he is a genuine person who cares about helping other people, who is confident enough to know what he's not good at, who's confident enough to know what he is good at? Because that's how females are attracted to men. Ultimately, we can largely just say confidence. And see, here's another thing though. Just then though, when a lot of you heard that, they're like, but Nick, I can't be confident because I don't have enough hair. I'm too young. I'm too young to be this bald. Okay? But again, that's that mindset that having hair and being confident are a package deal. And they're not. I keep saying, one of my catchphrases that I stole from writing in, was it Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee? The episode, look it up on Netflix, the episode with Steve Martin. And he says this quote, and it's such a big part of my identity. There is no difference between real confidence and fake confidence. The rest of the world can't tell the difference. So if you're saying, well, I'm not confident because I don't have enough hair, then Nick Shell would say, pretend that you are confident and watch what happens. Because as long as there are 22-year-old guys that have no hair on top that say no woman will be attracted to me, there are arguably even more bald 22-year-old guys who have embraced that. They shave their hair, they work out, they figure out what they're good at, they figure out what they're bad at, they pretend that they're confident even if they're not, and they don't have this same problem that other men. See, what happens is if you're in that mindset that I can only be attractive and confident if I have hair, you know what danger you're in? You're in danger of being an incel, because that's absolutely how incels think. They think that there's no hope or cure for them psychologically. They think you have to either have hair or you can have all the things you want. That's an incel perspective, which I'm the opposite. Nick Shell, I need to start using this. Nick Shell is the opposite of an incel. I do not think like an incel. I think like Nick Shell, the rebel. Your comments belong right here. But it really is this simple. Those things are not exclusive. You have control over this. Nick Shell has no fear, especially not hair loss. And you can be the same as Nick Shell. Comments belong right here.